does an oil spill compare to a train derailment when it comes to hydrocarbon transport? Although both are unwanted and rare disasters, they can occur. Just last month, there was a significant spill in Saskatchewan, and earlier this week, a train carrying fuel derailed in Toronto. Thankfully, disaster was avoided in that situation, but that's not always the case. Lac Mégantic was the biggest rail disaster since Confederation in 1867. And let's face it, the world depends on oil in modern society, so there's no getting around transporting the product. So let's compare what happens when disaster strikes in the case of oil spills and train derailments. The fact of the matter is that pipelines are the safer method of transport, hands down. The spill in Saskatchewan was reported in the news as being between 200,000 and 250,000 liters, and updated stats confirm that 145,000 liters were spilled. North Battleford and Prince Albert did indeed have to shut down their water treatment plants, and the operation of temporary pipelines has been delivering drinking water to the municipalities. You wouldn't hear this in the news, but the oil spill cleanup in Saskatchewan has been a success. So far, 80% of the spill has been cleaned up, and out of 1,400 water samples collected, all have been cleared for safe drinking just 3 days after the spill occurred. Increased hydrocarbons were determined in 42 of the samples, but only 2 were flagged for unacceptable levels of toluene and pyrene, determined to be unsafe for aquatic life. All things considered, this was a relatively minor spill, and that's an additional pro when it comes to pipeline transport. They can be shut down to minimize further spillage. In the case of rail transport, whatever is on the track has the possibility of igniting and resulting in an explosion. In the Lac Mégantic disaster, 47 people died as a result of an explosion that had a 1-kilometer radius in the downtown center of the city. More than 30 buildings were destroyed as a result, with the majority left standing unsalvageable and later demolished. In the case of pipelines, oil can be cleaned up. In fact, many types of oil are naturally occurring mixes that will float on top of waterways, allowing for easier cleanup in the case of a spill. The heavier substances will sink, but most are volatiles and will be broken up in the atmosphere and by bacteria. Nobody ever wants a disaster to strike, but lives can't be replaced, and there is more of a risk to human life in the case of a train derailment. There were no reports about the successful cleanup of the recent Husky oil spill in Saskatchewan, just more demonization of an industry that makes modern life a reality. And there's no doubt that this spill and the negative headlines are just more fodder for the eco-activist crowd. And it couldn't come at a worse time, with pipeline hearings for both Energy East and Trans Mountain underway right now. In the case of pipelines, facts don't matter to the anti-oil and gas crowd that will take what it can get to fuel their uninformed and unrealistic narrative. For the Rebel.media, I'm Holly Nicholas.
Thanks for watching. Click here to never miss a Rebel update. Want even more of the Rebel? Well, click here to become a premium member.